सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सुखं नित्यं स्वप्रकाशं व्यापकं नाम रूपयोः अधिष्ठानं बुद्ध्यबोध्यं बुद्धिर्गृह्यत्तु निर्मलम् अपारं सर्ववेदान्तवेद्यं प्रत्यक्परं महः तदेवाहं न मत्तोऽन्यदिति मे निश्चिता मतिः।
So in this second chapter, where the Vishesha Akshepa means the specific objections are raised and they are answered. First, the specific objection regarding the Adhikari were asked and answered. Then regarding the Vishaya, the subject matter were asked and answered. And now regarding the Prayojana, what is the benefit of this text? That is regarding those, the objections are raised and they are answered. And first, in this 66th topic, 66th avarta, it is said that bondage is real. And since bondage is real, therefore, anything which is real cannot be removed by jnana. Why is it so? We saw certain details here. Jnanam can remove two things. Sakshataya ajnanam. Directly it can remove ajnanam. Paramparaya ajnana karya adhyasaha. And indirectly means through by the way of removal of ajnanam, it will remove the effect of ajnanam, which is adhyasa, superimposition. So now, if bondage has to be removed by jnanam, then either it has to be ajnana rupa or it has to be adhyasa rupa. The first possibility that it is ajnana rupa is not so, because sukha, dukkha, all this is a type of bondage or is bondage, and that is our experience. That means it is not ajnanam. Thus, bondage is not ajnanam. So the
Ajnana matram, at least.
Yes. So bondage is not merely ajnanam. So that first possibility is ruled out. And the second possibility is that this bondage can be adhyasa. And regarding that possibility, the Purvapakshi is saying in this particular 66th topic that bondage is not even adhyasa. And how is he saying? So he is saying that for adhyasa, there needs to be certain causal factors. And such causal factors are not there in Atma. So therefore, the bondage in the form of ahankara, etc. cannot be superimposed on Atma, because in Atma, the causal factors for superimposition in the form of bondage are not there. Thus, the Purvapakshi is saying that even the second option is untenable. Therefore, bondage is neither being ajnanam nor being ajnana karya adhyasaha. It cannot be removed by jnanam. And when this is said, then after that, in the 67th topic, avarta, the Purvapakshi is explaining what are the causal factors for superimposition. And those are causal factors for superimposition in general. And he had told 5 causal factors. And now he is establishing how those 5 are the causal factors for superimposition to happen. So he is saying, he has already said that without this causal factor, the adhyasa superimposition will not happen. So now he further says, Shuktikayam rajatadhyasah rajvam sarpadhyasah cha jayate. In the shell, the superimposition of silver, and in the rope, the superimposition of the snake is born. And here we saw that why or what is the importance of these two examples. Is why generally we present two examples for superimposition. So this Shuktikayam Rajata Dhyasaha is the example for showing that even our Raga Vishaya or Pravrutti Vishaya can be superimposition. Means the objects of our activity or the objects of our attachment can be superimposition. And by Rajvam Sarpadhyasaha it is shown that even the Dvesha Vishaya or the Nivrutti Vishaya, means the object of our withdrawal and or the object of our disliking, that also can be superimposition. Thus, this two example covers these two aspects, and therefore these two are generally used. And also we saw that when the example is well settled, then using the same example has the benefit of not explaining the example again and again. If we do change the example in at every point of explanation, then our time and energy is spent on explaining the example. But once the example is well explained and well settled, then we just need to refer to the example and we need not spend any further time or energy in explaining it. And now, first of all, the Granthakara from the next sentence, means in the next sentence, is explaining how the samskara, which is the first adhyasa samagri, is the cause for adhyasa. And this particular method that he uses is Anvaya Vyatireka logic. And what is that? To show that in the presence of A, B is there. And when A is absent, then B is absent. By this Anvaya and Vyatireka, means co-presence and co-absence, it is shown that A is the cause of B. Thus this Karya Karana Bhava is established. It is said, Sahacha Yasya Parmartha Satya Rajata Sarpadyanubhava Hita Samskaraha Vartate Tasya Eva Jayate. So it is said, Saha means that Adhyasa is born, Jayate. For what person? For that person alone, in whom or for whom there is presence of samskara, the impressions, which are caused by the experience of silver, snake, etc., which are empirically real. So by this, in this, Anvaya logic is shown that when there is impression which is born of the experience of some empirically real entity, then for that person alone in whom such impressions are there, the adhyasa superimposition of that entity can be born. Tadrahitasya tu na adhyasah jayate. Means for the person who is devoid of such samskaras, the superimposition is not born. So in this sentence, the Vyatireka logic was shown. Iti ataha. Since this is so, therefore, means based on this Anvaya Vyatireka logic, Satya Vastu Pramahita Samskaraha Adhyasa Hetuhu. The impressions which are caused by the knowledge of the real thing is the cause of adhyasa. So thus the first samagri is established to be adhyasa hetu. And now the Granthakara is showing how the fourth samagri, that is prameya doshaha, is the adhyasa hetu. And the logic used is the same, Anvaya Vyatireka logic. So it is said, Shuktikayam Sarpadhyasasya Rajjau Rajatadyasasya cha Anudayat Prameya Sadrushya Doshaha Api Adyasa Hetuhu Bhavati. And here we have to add, before Shuktikaya means what type of Shuktika, means in what type of silver? Sarpa, in what type of shell? So in what type of shell? In the shell which is Sarpa Sadrushya Rahita, which is devoid of being similar to the snake. In that kind of shell, the superimposition of Sarpa is not born. And in the rope, which is not having similarity with the silver, in such rope, such rope, the superimposition of silver is not born. So here, the Granthakara has given only the Vyatireka logic, and we can supply the Anvaya logic. And it can be like this. Rajata Sadrushya Shuktikayam Rajatadyasasya Sarpa Sadrushya Rajjau Sarpa Sadrushya Rajjau
Sarpa Sadrushya Sahita Rajjau.
Yes. Sarpa Sadrushya Rajjau. Yes. So Sarpa Sadrushya Sahita Rajjau Sarpadhyasasya cha Udayat Prameya Gata Sadrushya Doshaha Api Adyasa Hetuhu Bhavati. So it means that in the Shuktika, in the shell which has got similarity with silver, since there is rise of the superimposition of silver, and in the rope which has got similarity with the snake, since there is rise of the superimposition of the snake, therefore because of this Anvaya and Vyatireka, therefore the defect in the form of similarity which is obtaining in the Prameya, means the wrongly understood entity, even that is Adyasa Hetu, the cause of superimposition. And here for Sadrushya, what kind of Sadrushya is there? For that the Tippanikara writes that in the rope, the defect in the form of similarity obtaining in the Prameya, and here Prameya refers to the Rajju, the rope itself, is in the form of being crooked, being long, just like the snake. And in the shell, such a defect is there in the form of being shining, and in the having a shape which is similar to silver. So such kind of Prameya Gata Sadrushya dosha is there in the Rajju and in the Shuktika. And now in the next sentence, the Granthakara shows how the second and the third Samagri is Adyasa Hetu, means the Pramatru doshaha and the Pramana doshaha. It is said, Evam. Similarly, Pramatrugata Lobha Bhayadi doshaha Chakshuradi Pramanagata Kacha Kamaladi doshaha cha Adyasa Hetavaha. So here, the Anvaya Vyatireka logic is not given. But when it is said similarly, then we understand that similarly based on Anvaya Vyatireka logic, the defects in the form of the greed, the fear, etc., which are obtaining in the knower, are Adyasa Hitavaha, are the cause for superimposition. And the defects in the form of Kacha, means a particular eye disease which affects the eye nerve.
Optical nerve.
Yes.
Either also okay. I mean, local language it's okay.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
So the defect, yes, the defect in the form of the disease which is affecting the optical nerve, jaundice, etc., which are obtaining in the pramana, means the means of knowledge such as eyes, etc., they are also adhyasa hetavaha. And here we can see the Anvaya Vyatireka, that when Pramatrugata Lobha Bhayadi Doshaha Santi Tarhi Adhyasaha Bhavati Anyatha Adhyasaha Na Bhavati. And similarly, Chakshuradi Pramanagata Kacha Kamaladi Doshaha Santi Tarhi Adhyasaha Bhavati Anyatha Adhyasaha Na Bhavati Ataha Te Adhyasa Hetavaha. So now, having established the first four samagri as adhyasa hetu, now the Granthakara in the next sentence or from the next sentence is establishing how the fifth point is adhyasa hetu. So it is said, Shuktikayam rajata adhyasa samaye iyam iti adhisthana samanya jnane sati iyam shuktihi iti vishesha jnane asati cha adhyasaha bhavati. So here the Anvaya logic is shown, and it is said, in the shell during the time of the superimposition of the silver, there is the knowledge of the general aspect of the locus of superimposition. And what is the type of that knowledge? In which manner is that knowledge? Iyam, this. So there is knowledge of the thisness, which really belongs to the Shuktika. And also there is absence of knowledge of the knowledge of specific aspect of the Adhishthanam. And what is the knowledge of that specific aspect? Iyam Shuktihi, means this is the shell. When these two conditions are fulfilled, then Adhyasa is there. And now the Vyatireka logic is shown. Shuktihi iti vishesha jnane sati va iyam iti samanya jnane asati va adhyasaha na eva jayate. When there is the knowledge of the specific aspect of the adhishthanam, and that in this case is shuktihi, means the shell, or there is absence of knowledge of the general aspect of the adhishthanam, in this case it is iyam, this, then if either of the condition is not fulfilled, then the superimposition is definitely not born. Tasmad is based on this Anvaya Vyatireka logic. Adhisthana samanya jnanam tad vishesha jnanam cha adhyasa hetuhu. Therefore, the knowledge of the general aspect of the adhishthanam, the locus of superimposition, and the absence of knowledge of the specific aspect of that adhishthanam is the adhyasa hetu, is the cause for superimposition. Thus, the Granthakara established how all the five samagri are adhyasa hetu based on Anvaya Vyatireka logic.
So we are seeing the akshepa, the objections. So if somebody simply listens this, then they think, oh, this is what Vedanta is telling. This is not what Vedanta is telling. This is what is going to be dismissed by Vedanta. Otherwise, people may think that, oh, we thought Dhanena Moksha, and these people are telling that Dhanena no Moksha. Okay. So, misunderstanding is possible. So, we keep saying that these are the objections raised by Purva Pakshi. Purva Pakshi is not a Pakshi, it's an opponent. By opponent, these objections are raised. Objection regarding Prayojana. And what is the Prayojana? Dhanera Bandha Nivrutti. By knowledge, there is removal of bondage. This is the Prayojanam regarding that Akshepa is there. And the first point regarding that is that why Jnanena Bandha Nivrittina? Because Bandha Satya. By Jnanam, bondage can be removed if Bandha is unreal, Adhyastha. But bondage is real, not Adhyastha. Therefore, by knowledge, bondage cannot be removed. And why bondage is real? Because this bondage is Adhyastha. Mithya means it is Adhyastha. If bondage is Mithya, means Adhyastha, then there should be some causal factor in Atma for having Adhyasa. Because Karanam Vina Karyam na Jayate. So for the Adhyasa of the bondage to happen in Atma, there should be the causal factor, necessary conditions in Atma. Atma and who or whatever, all necessary conditions for Adhyasa to happen in Atma, those should be there. So Bandha is in the form of Anatma itself. Anatma itself is Bandha. And Anatma can be Bandha when it is Adhyastha. And Anatma can be Adhyastha in Atma. Because we are telling our entire Anatma is Adhyastha. Therefore, Adhyasa of Anatma should be in Atma. And for Adhyasa, the superimposition of Anatma on Atma to happen, conditions are required. Causal factors are required. For any karya to happen, causal factors required. And what are the general causal factors? They were described 5 in number. And those 5 factors are not there for the superimposition of Anatma on Atma. Therefore, the superimposition of Anatma on Atma is not there. Therefore, Anatma, which is bondage, is not Adhyastha. And therefore, it is real. And therefore, it cannot be removed by knowledge. Alright, so 5 conditions all were shown in the example of Shuktikayam Rajatadhyasaha Rajvam Sarpadhyasa. How these 5 conditions are met with, that was shown. The Satya Vastu Anubhavajanya Samskara Pramatru Dosha Pramana Dosha Prameya Dosha and Adhisthana Vishesha Jnanam Tat Samanya Jnanam. Here one thing to be noted incidentally is that the Prameya Dosha was presented in the form of Sadrishya. Sadrishya means similarity. Really speaking, it is not a dosha, but with reference to Adhyasa, in the context of Adhyasa, the similarity becomes dosha. I was thinking of some example. Somebody is having a particular look. You can have any look. Having any look is not a dosha. But imagine your look is similar to some terrorist. Then what happens? It becomes a dosha. You will be caught sometime. Even though you are not a terrorist. But you have a particular look. And that look is similar to the terrorist. Then what becomes? It becomes a dosha. बोले मुझे क्यों पकड़ लिया बोले because you are looking like him. Is it clear? So this we need to understand that even though it is not a dosha, it is not a defect, but in the context of Adhyasa, it becomes dosha. Otherwise, nothing wrong. Rajju looks like Sarpa, not a problem. But in the context of Adhyasa, that also becomes an additional factor, therefore it is considered dosha. So that this we need to know. Otherwise, Sadrishyam is not really a dosha. It can be, what is that big deal, Alright. Then the last condition we need to study a little more. Last condition we were saying, Shuktikayam Rajatadhyasa Samaye Yam iti Adhisthana Samanya Jnane Sati Yam Shukti iti Vishesha Jnane Asati cha Adhyasa Bhavati. This superimposition is possible when you have got knowledge of general aspect of Adhishthanam and when you have ignorance of the specific aspect of Adhisthana. Alright. And Anvaya was shown that Iyam iti Adhisthana Samanya Jnanam is there, and Iyam Shukti, this is shell, this type of specific knowledge is not there. So that much knowledge should be there. This aspect is the general aspect. The knowledge of general aspect should be there, and the ignorance of the specific aspect should be there. And let us understand why it is called Samanya Jnanam. He will explain what is Samanya now. If there is a complete knowledge, what will be the complete right knowledge? This is a shell. So this is a shell. So this is a general aspect which is available in the right perception, available in wrong perception also. Therefore it is Samanya, common, general aspect. And generalness can be also explained in the sense that everything is referred by this. In that way also, this within quote, this is a general aspect. We say this is a clip, this is a book, this is a pot. So this is common. Therefore also it can be called general. But here we are talking about this aspect as general in the sense it is available in both. In the mistake state also it is available, and in the right understanding also it is available. That is called Samanya Amsha. This is a shell in that this is Samanya Amsha, general aspect. And as a shell, this is specific aspect. Is it clear? And for Adhyasa to happen, I should have the knowledge of Samanya and I should have ignorance of the specific. Means I should know, in simple words what we say, I should know something is there, but I should not know what is there. I should know something is there and I should not know what is there. Means there should be ignorance of what is there. Then only there is mistake. In relationship also, you know the person, somewhat you know, but you do not know how the person is. Then what? Misunderstanding happens. You don't have misunderstanding of somebody who is in Timbuktu because you don't know Samanya aspect of that person. And therefore, even though you do not know Vishesh aspect of that person, mistake is not there. So for misunderstanding to happen, some understanding should be there. Isn't it? So understanding of general aspect and this non-understanding of specific aspect, then only misunderstanding, misconception happens. Alright. So that is said here. Then first it was said Anvaya, that Iyamiti Adhisthana Samanya Jnanam is there and Vishesha Jnanam is not there, Adhyasa is there. Anvaya was shown. Vyatireka is Shukti iti Vishesha Jnane Sati. So if Vishesha Jnana Abhava is not there, so Vishesha Jnana Abhava is the material. So Shukti iti Vishesha Jnane Sati. If there is knowledge of specific aspect, and what type of knowledge? Shuktihi. This is a shell. If there is a knowledge of specific aspect, that this is a shell, or there is absence of even knowledge of general aspect, iyam, then adhyasa is not born. Means in two situations, adhyasa will not be born. If you know this is a shell, then you will not mistake it for rajata. And if you do not know even samanya aspect, when will it happen? Either it is very far off or there is complete darkness. Then iyam, this is there, that much also is not known, then also adhyasa will not happen. If you did not know the person at all, will you have misunderstanding about the person? You will not have misunderstanding. That's why people say, no, मेरी life पे तुम आया नहीं होते तो अच्छा होता. If you did not come in my life, it would have been better. So I will not have misunderstood. You came in my life and I don't understand you, therefore problem. Is it clear? So if specific knowledge was there, the knowledge of specific aspect of the person or the thing is there, then also mistake is not there. If there is absence of even samanya jnanam, then also mistake, adhyasa is not there. Tasmat, therefore, adhisthana samanya jnanam tad vishesha jnanam cha adhyasa hetu. Therefore, the knowledge of adhisthana samanya, the general aspect of adhisthana. So here vigraha is what? Adhishthanasya samanyasya jnanam. Adhisthana samanya jnanam. Knowledge of the general aspect of adhisthana and tad vishesha jnanam cha, and the ignorance of the specific aspect of tad means adhisthana is adhyasa hetu, is the cause for adhyasa. Alright. And here the Tippanikara explains what is the adhisthana samanya. He says, very beautiful definition he gives. Yaha भ्रांति दशायाम अपि प्रतिभाति यदभावे भ्रांतिरेव न स्यात् सः एव सामान्यांशः आधारः इति च उच्यते. So he says, yaha, the aspect which भ्रांति दशायाम अपि, even in the state of delusion, pratibhati, appears. The aspect yaha which appears even in the state of mistake, yadabhavecha, and in the absence of which bhrantireva nasyat, the delusion itself will not be there. Sa eva samanya amshaha, that alone is samanya amsha iti uchyate, is called general aspect. And he is making some distinction between samanya aspect and vishesha aspect. The samanya aspect is called adharaha, support. Iti uchyate. And here yadabhave is written, no? So literally yadabhave means yasya abhave. So in the absence of which aspect the bhrantireva nasyat. So here we have to understand yadabhave yad pratibhasa bhavecha. In the absence of which and in the absence of whose knowledge bhrantireva nasyat. In fact, that is important. If samanya amsha is not there or samanya amsha jnanam is not there, bhranti will not be there. So, in the absence of which and in the absence of whose knowledge delusion will not be there, that is called samanya amsha, general aspect. And that general aspect is called adharaha. So, in iyam shuktihi, that iyam part, idam part is called adharaha. This is a new terminology. Generally, this type of distinction is not made. Both are called adhisthana, but here he says samanya amsha is called adharaha. Is it clear? Now, what is vishesha? Yaha bhranti dashayam na bhati. The aspect which does not shine, does not become evident in the state of delusion, mistake. Yad bhane, on whose cognition or on the cognition of which aspect bhrantihi, misconception, mistake, nishesham nashet, would be completely destroyed. Saha eva, that aspect alone, visheshamshaha iti uchyate, is called specific aspect. And that alone is that is also called adhisthana miticha, is called adhisthana aspect. So this is very interesting that idam aspect is called adhara and shukti aspect is called adhisthana.
how will we translate adhisthanam here?
Adhishthanam, we have to say basis. Generally, we have a word, we don't use that, substratum. Basis, we have to say. Some different word we have to say. Locus of mistake. Or
Yes.
the basis upon which there is mistake. Okay. Alright, so Samanya Amsha, Vishesh Amsha. Idam Amsha is Samanya and this Shukti ka aspect Amsha is Vishesh Amsha. Alright. So for Adhyasa to happen, the Samanya Jnanam should be there and Vishesha Jnanam should not be there. Vishesha Jnanam should be there. Adhyasa. Okay. So these are the 5 requisites, 5 causal factors. For what?
Adhyasa.
For any adhyasa to happen, according to Purvapakshi. We are going to dismiss, but they are saying 5. Okay. Purvokta samagrinam panchanam anyatama bhave na adhyasa siddhyati. In the absence, abhave, in the absence of panchanam anyatama, in the absence of any one of these 5, samagrinam, causal factors, Purvokta, mentioned earlier, in the absence of any one of these 5 factors mentioned earlier, adhyasaha na siddhyati. Adhyasa is not established. एक नहीं है तो भी नहीं होगा. And since the Purvapakshi is going to say 5 you don't. Like if you don't have one of these 5 documents, you cannot get the visa. You don't have any. हम आ गए बस हम ही है. I am there. So Purvapakshi is saying that if any one of these 5 is not there, adhyasa na siddhyati. Adhyasa is not established. Alright. Further he says, why is it so? He said it is a simple rule. Samagri is required for karyotpatti. If samagri is not there, karyotpatti. वो बोले कि आप अच्छी रोटी बनाते हैं, आपने सुना है? हाँ बोले, क्योंकि बिना आटा भी बना लेते हैं. So without a flour also you make rotis. Then only I can consider you a good cook. Roti, atta is there, flour is there, you are making roti, what a big deal. So ऐसा है. So he says, घटोत्पत्तो कुलालदंड चक्र मृत सलिलादयः सामग्र्यः. For घटोत्पत्तो, with regard to the creation of pot, samagriha means the requisites, in English we can call requisites, causal factors, necessary factors. What are they? Kulala, pot maker. Danda means a stick. So for us it is very difficult to imagine. The stick also is required. The stick will give the movement to the chakra. Then chakra, that pot wheel. Potter's wheel, I think they call it. Potter wheel. Yeah. We had seen once we had gone somewhere. Yes. So here we can go and see chakra. You have seen? But of course we went to see, it was a factory. So in that they were making big jar. When we were studying, that one ceramic in Morbi, that they took us there. And really that much was there, that one chakra means upper mechanized. And on that they were putting and the jar will come. So that much we have seen. Okay, but that was our syllabus was that ceramics. So chakra, then mrit, clay, salila, water, adaya. सब कुछ बता दिया. Adaya, what will we say? So something else will be required. What extra?
Clay.
Clay is already there.
And that for baking the clay, some fire.
Fire, Agni. Yes. Agni also is required. But they will say, वो बड़ा तो बन गया ना.
Maybe sunlight may be baking. When it is wet, when it is made, it is wet. Then they dry it out in the sun.
No, but cut up. See, pot is made. No, baking was extra हुआ है. Or one more thing. Anyway, we'll pick. What is required? The ground also, ground we can do it. Ground. Because Adayam is one, at least we have to supply. We can think of that. Huh? Yeah. So all ground, etc. Something, as you said, sunlight, fire, etc. required. To make a functional pot, we require fire. So that we'll say. Ghatotpatto means कार्यकारी घटोत्पत्तो. Something कुछ समाधान देना चाहिए तो बुद्धि हमारी आगे नहीं जाएगी. It will not go ahead. Okay. Samagriha. These are the samagriha means requisites. So for ghatotpatto, for the creation of pot, the pot maker, stick, wheel, water, etc. are required. Acha. Similarly, further he says, yatha etesham anyatama bhave naiva utpadyate ghataha. Just as in the absence of any one of these factors, pot is certainly not born. Pot will not born at all. Tatha, similarly, adhyasa samagrinam anyatama bhave api adhyasaha na utpadyeta. Similarly, in the absence of the requisite factors, required factors for adhyasa, adhyasa will not be born. Just as pot will not be born without the required things, items. Similarly, adhyasa will not be born without the required things, the things which are required for adhyasa. So, adhyasa samagri means the requisites of adhyasa, or the causal factors for adhyasa. In the absence of them, in the absence of any one of this, adhyasa is not born. Tasmat, therefore, purvoktanam panchanam samagrinam avashyakatvat. Therefore, means the without samagri any product is not born. Therefore, purvoktanam panchanam samagrinam avashyakatvat tasam sarvasam satve eva adhyasaha jayeta na anyatha. Because of the general rule that without samagri that the karyam is not born, therefore purvoktanam panchanam samagrinam avashyakatvat, since these 5 items which have been mentioned earlier are necessary for adhyasa, therefore tasam sarvasam satve. So what is the hetu madbhav? Since these 5 factors are the requisites for adhyasa, therefore sarve sarvasam satve eva, in the presence of all these factors alone, adhyasaha jayeta, adhyasa would be born. Na anyatha, not otherwise. Na anyatha means what? Sarvasam asatve. In the absence of these factors, adhyasa will not be born. Alright. Now, this is only general presentation he gave. That 5 factors are required, and how those 5 factors are required for adhyasa, he explained with the help of example of sarpadhyasa, rajatadhyasa. And it is said without these factors, adhyasa cannot be born. Okay, but if these 5 factors are available, then no problem. If 5 factors are available with regard to Atma and Atma Dhyasa, then no problem. And now Purvapakshi said, none of these are available. Any one of these 5 not available. Like fully failed. So in no subject it is passing. No, that's what it says. That 5 factors are required for Adhyasa, and none of the factor is available for Atma and Atma Adhyasa. That's what he says in the next. Bandhadhyase prathama samagriya bhavaha. So that is the topic. With regard to the superimposition of bondage. And what is the bondage here? Ahankaradi dehanta anatma. For the superimposition of bondage in the form of non-self, there is prathama samagri abhavaha, the absence of the first requisite, the first causal factor. Prathamayaha samagriyaha abhavaha, the absence of the first required factor. Achha, what is the first required factor? We should not forget. Satya vastu anubhava janya samskara. The impression born of the experience of real thing. That is the requirement. And that requirement is not fulfilled here. That is, he shows that here, bandhasya adhyastatva sadhakah na ekah api hetu sabhavati. This is bandhasya adhyastatva sadhakah hetu. The cause which is establishing, sadhaka means establishing. The cause which is establishing the adhyastatva, being superimposed, bandhasya, on the part of bondage. Na eka api sambhavati, even one is not possible. The cause establishing the superimposed status of the bondage is not possible, even one cause. As in fact, we can say eka with the beginning itself. Even one cause establishing the superimposed status of bondage is not possible. In simple words, for anatma adhyasa on atma, even one requisite is not possible. One causal factor is not possible. How? Tathahi. The explanation follows. What is the explanation? First one. Yadi अन्यत्र कदाचित् सत्यबन्धः अनुभूतः स्यात् तदा तत्प्रमानुभवजन्य संस्कारवशात् आत्मनि बन्धाध्यासः जायेत न तु तदस्ति. So he says, yadi, if अन्यत्र, somewhere else, कदाचित्, sometime, means कहीं भी or कोई भी time. So at अन्यत्र means anywhere else, means some place, in some place other than Atma, or in some situation, anyatra, some situation, not other than Atma, in some situation, kadachit, sometime, satya bandhaha, the real bondage was experienced. Somewhere at some time, real bondage was experienced. We, in the Purvapakshi, may not be particular about Atma, but somewhere bondage should be experienced. In fact, he should say that somewhere, we need not be in Atma. So, yanyatra means Atma anyatra, somewhere other than Atma, in some place other than Atma, kadachit, sometime, satya bandhaha, real bondage was experienced. Is it clear? Syat, was there. If real bondage was experienced somewhere, sometime. Is it clear? Anyatra he has to say other than Atma. Like you see, what he wants to say, that you should have seen the snake somewhere. Other than the rope, somewhere you have seen.
Yes.
Sometime you have seen. Similarly, the bondage of the superimposition of bondage, anatma, in Atma is possible when you have seen the bondage somewhere really available. That's what he said. Kadachit satya bandhaha anubhutah syat. Sometime real bondage was experienced somewhere. Tada, then, tat pramanubhavajanya samskara vashat. On account of, vashat means on account of the impression which is janya, born of, anubhava, the experience which is in the form of prama, in the form of valid knowledge of what? Valid knowledge of that real bondage. So tat shabda is satyabandha. So here pramanubhava no, is not pramaya anubhava, pramarupa anubhava. So on account of the impression born of experience in the form of valid knowledge of real bondage, atmani, on the self, bandhadhyasaha, the superimposition of the bondage, jayeta, would be born. In simple words, if you have seen this anatma somewhere, real anatma you have seen, then you can superimpose here on atma. Sometimes, even for 1 second, You have seen real Atma somewhere, real Anatma somewhere. Ahankaradi Dehanta, real Anatma you have seen somewhere other than Atma, somewhere you have seen, and then you can superimpose here. Or even if you have seen in Atma also, no problem. That much discount we can give. Purvapakshi may say that you have seen real Atma, real Anatma, which is Bandha, sometime, then you can superimpose on Atma. Is it clear? Natu tadasti. Natu tadasti means that type of situation is not there. So tad, by that, what is referred to is tat pramanubhavat janya samskara nasti. Nasti. But the impression born of the experience which is in the form of valid knowledge of real bondage is not there. Why? Vedanta Siddhante, in the principle of Vedanta, Atmana Anyasya Sarvasyapi Mityatvena, since anything other than Atma, everything else other than Atma is considered to be unreal. Atmana Anyasya Sarvasyapi Mityatvena. Because of everything other than self is considered to be unreal, therefore, Satyasya Vastunaha, of real entity, Anumatrasya, even in small measure, Abhava Nishchayat, since there is ascertainment of the absence. So, because of, let me reread in English, because of ascertainment of the ascertainment of the absence of even a small thing, which is real, because of everything other than the self is considered to be unreal. So main hetu is what? In Vedanta Siddhanta, there is no thing considered to be real other than Atma. So all Anatma, even a small Anatma, is unreal. Why? Because everything other than Atma is Mithya. So it is Mithya, therefore it cannot be real. So Anumatrasya api abhava nishyat. There is absence of real thing. There is no real Anatma available, even in small measure. Means even a small Anatma is not available as real one. Even small real Anatma is not available. Where? Vedanta Siddhanta. In Vedanta Siddhanta. Why? Because everything is Mithya. Other than Atma, everything is Mithya. Therefore what? Everything is Mithya. So all Anatma is Mithya all the time. Therefore real Anatma was never experienced by you. Because real Anatma is not there. How can you experience? So real Anatma is not experienced by you. Therefore real Anatma Anubhava, Pramarupa Anubhava Samskara is not there. And therefore what? Adhyasa Samagri is not there. Tasmat. Therefore, Satya Bandhanubhava Janita Samskara Bhavat, because of the absence of the impressions born of experience of real bondage. So because of the absence of the impression born of the experience of real bondage, Atmani bandhadhyasaha na yujyate. The superimposition of the bondage on the self na yujyate is not possible. In simple words, in layman's language, if you have to say this much, you have never seen real anatma any time. Therefore, you don't have samskara of real anatma. And therefore, you cannot superimpose anatma on atma. Second samagri, we'll see in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Harihi Om.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Harihi Om.